101.1, The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues. You can sound off and talk back at 501 401 1011. Mass shooting at the Mall of Louisiana in Baton Rouge a little bit earlier this afternoon. FBI Director Kash Patel posting just 45 minutes ago. FBI New Orleans and agents out of our Baton Rouge office are continuing to assist our partners with the investigation on today's shooting at the Mall of Louisiana. Please pray for the victims and their families, and we will update as able. We do have details coming up from the president's little press conference in the Oval Office a few moments ago about Iran, but this is extremely concerning. And if it's like any mall that I've ever been in, and I try to avoid malls for just such an instance as this, and producer Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, no, wait, I'm sorry. You're between 20 and 60 years old, so you never go in a mall anyway. But there's I'm just saying. There's always I never go in a mall either. There are always signs at the entrances, no concealed carry allowed. So if you're like, oh, well, I got to be a good boy. I got to follow the rules. They want me to be a sitting duck when somebody comes in and starts spraying bullets. That's what happens. Channel 4 WWL out of New Orleans. The TV station, the sister station, the big AM talker down there. 1 dead, 9 hurt, in targeted shooting at Mall of Louisiana, officials say. And this was just updated 4 minutes ago. 1 person is dead, 9 people were hurt during what officials called a targeted shooting at the Mall of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. No word yet on the condition of the victims who are still alive. Baton Rouge Police Chief T.J. Morris said police received reports of shots being fired in the food court area. Of course, that's where it always is. I mean, nobody goes into like a Hallmark card shop and starts shooting. It's always in the food court area. So Chief T.J. Morris said police received reports of shots being fired in the food court area after 2 groups of people got into an argument. Imagine that. Immediately after the shooting, officials said the mall was on lockdown as of 1:30 p.m. Central. Chief Morris said he didn't believe there was a threat to the general public, especially in the area of the mall, as the parking lot was filled with police and emergency vehicles. He said, quote, right here is the safest place in Louisiana right now. This does not appear to be a random act of violence, unquote. Well. In that case, I guess everybody can calm down. So, no. Instead of some guy walking in and screaming Allah Akbar and just shooting everybody, are we to deduce from the chief's comments that it was just a couple of gangs shooting at each other, and they cleared out? So mall safe, food court safe, it's all good. Come on and get some Chick-fil-A. Nope. That all over but the shouting. Chief Morris also said some of the victims sent to the hospital were in surgery at Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center. Unknown how many of the victims were intended targets and how many bystanders may have been hit. See, that's the thing. The jihad guys, the Allah Akbar guys, are intentionally shooting as many innocent people as they can, right? Everybody remember Fort Hood, 2009, 2014. Everybody remember the guy on New Year's Eve night, New Orleans, just running over people in the French Quarter. But The gangbangers, too, shooting each other, they don't care. If a stray hits an 18-month-old in a stroller, they don't care. Baton Rouge Mayor Sid Edwards offered prayers for the victims and a stern warning to the perpetrators, at least one of whom is believed to still be at large. Oh, yeah, stern warning. Yeah, that'll help. At the press conference a few minutes ago, he said, to the thugs that did this, we're going to catch you. The devil lives everywhere. If someone gets in their mind that they're going to do something like this, they're going to do something like this. Well, that's reassuring. That's reassuring. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions there, but he doesn't sound like a conservative. I wonder if Baton Rouge is a blue city. I mean, capital Louisiana, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they be a blue city? Wait, he's a Republican? Okay, we got bigger problems than I thought here. I mean, offer prayers for the victims and a stern warning to the perpetrators, at least one of whom still believed to be at large. To the thugs that did this, we're going to catch you. The devil lives everywhere. If someone gets in their mind that they're going to do something like this, they're going to do something like this. You know, I wonder if he said more than that and the TV station is editing his comments. I wonder if he said, so always carry, and they just left that out. If he's a Republican, maybe, maybe. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry offered his prayers and for the second time in less than 24 hours was responding to a mass shooting or the threat of one. On X, Governor Jeff Landry wrote, Sharon and I are praying for those affected and are grateful for a quick response by our law enforcement officials. Okay, now wait a minute. Hang on. Hold the fort. Usually, when you're reading a news article and it quotes what somebody put on X, they'll have that tweet embedded. I wonder why WWL-TV Channel 4 out of Louisiana didn't have the tweet embedded. I wonder if he said more than that. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he did say more than that. Let's look at what he said. Governor Jeff Landry, Republican governor of Louisiana, says, I'm aware of the active shooter scene at the Mall of Louisiana. I'm in coordination with law enforcement, and we will update as we know more. Please avoid the area. Sharon and I are praying for those affected and are grateful for a quick response by our law enforcement officials. So that was at 11:54 a.m. So I guess they just started shooting right before lunchtime at the food court. Wouldn't there be a max amount of people there? You know, I'm old enough to remember, and you could do an internet search. Doesn't matter if you use Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or whatever. Brave is one of them. Whatever search engine you want to use. If you were to do an internet search for food court mass shooting, maybe throw in good guy with a gun. There was one in Indiana, I think Indianapolis a few years ago, where a guy came out of the restroom and started shooting, and I think it's like 40 yards away. Good guy with a gun pulled out his gun and just took the shooter out and saved untold numbers of lives. And that's what the FBI doesn't want you to do. They want you to run. They want you to hide. And if the shooter finds you, well, Try to find something to pick up and beat them over the head with. They don't want you to neutralize the threat. They don't want you to shoot the shooter. And I don't care who the FBI director is. Kash Patel has not changed that. Kash Patel, Christopher Wray, James Comey, Bob Mueller, Louis Freeh. How far back do you want me to go? That is their official position. It's outrageous. They get people killed that way. So anyway, President Trump had an impromptu press conference in the Oval Office about other things. And then once he opened it up for questions from the assembled White House press corps, of course, they're asking about Iran. So we got that coming up as the Doc Washer Show continues, the Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. Well, 101.1 The Answer, Doc Washburn Show continues. We can sound off and talk back 501-401-1011. We will continue to watch the developments and the story of the mass shooting at the Mall of Louisiana in Baton Rouge a little bit earlier today. As more information becomes available, we'll let you know about that. In the meantime, just a little bit ago, President Trump had a press conference in the Oval Office. And as soon as they opened it up for questions, people started asking him about Iran. And so it went something like this. Trump, Iran, cut one, please.
On war with Iran, how long are you willing to wait until you get a unified response?
Don't rush me, Jeff. Guys like you want to say, oh, so we were in Vietnam like for 18 years. We were in Iraq for many, many years. We're in for all the, I don't like to say World War II because that was a biggie, but we were 4.5, almost 5 years in World War II. We were in the Korean War for 7 years. I've been doing this for 6 weeks. And their military is totally defeated.
It's interesting how he puts stuff into context there. Yeah, it's also interesting how he's not intimidated at all by the press corps. It's kind of like, yo, you're in my house now, man. So let me tell you what the deal is. Okay. Trump, Iran, cut two, please.
Outside of the little wise guy ships, I call them the wise guy ships, the little boats that they have running around with guns in them, and we'll take them out too when we see them. But their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, all of their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Maybe they loaded up a little bit during the 2-week hiatus, but we'll knock that out in about 1 day if they did. We've done an amazing job. Their leaders are gone. Their leaders are all gone. Part of the problem is that that's why I can't really answer your question. They have all new leadership and they're fighting like cats and dogs for who's going to control. And because we've created a real mess for them, but they've created a mess for the world over the last 47 years. They've killed a lot of our people.
Talking about how maybe they've restocked a little bit. I don't know if y'all are aware, but that ship that we stopped a few days ago, it was coming from China into Iran with all kinds of stuff to use for missiles. So, I mean, at some point, we're going to have to hold China accountable for that. So I don't know exactly how that's going to go down, but I just thought I should mention it to you. Because that's jacked up. Trump, Iran, cut three, please.
When you see a soldier, a young person or now an older person, but a person without legs or without arms or with a face that got blown to pieces, most likely it was from Iran. That was Soleimani, who I killed. Soleimani loved the roadside bomb. He was an evil genius. He was a brilliant general. Probably we wouldn't be as far advanced had I not taken him out. That was the beginning of it all.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I remember Tucker Carlson was saying that that was going to lead to a lot of Americans getting killed. Nah, not even. What? Oh no, you're right. No. That wasn't when he took Soleimani out. I think Tucker was still on Fox then, so he wouldn't have said something like that when he's still on Fox. No, that was when we took Iran's nukes out. Oh, you're going to get so many Americans killed. Oh, this is World War III. No, it's over pretty quickly. Just so you know. No, that's what I'm here for. I keep track of stuff. So you don't have to. And we pass the savings on to you. Okay, so what do we got next? Cut four. Trump, Iran, cut four, please.
And then I ended the Obama horror show. The nuclear transaction that he made was horror. It gave him a road to the, you call it, what the deal that he did, the Iran nuclear deal, was so bad. It gave him a road to a nuclear weapon. And I will tell you, I deal with him. You cannot give Iran a nuclear weapon. This is all about a nuclear weapon. They cannot have the nuclear bomb, and they're not going to have the nuclear bomb. So we've taken out their military. We've hit about 75% of our targets. We stopped a little early because they wanted to have some peace. And we have a blockade that's 100% effective.
It sure is. See, there are entities out there. Well, we mentioned yesterday on the show, Bloomberg News. is posting this Iranian propaganda. Oh, 26 ships got by the U.S. blockade, as if we're announce we're blockading the whole Strait of Hormuz. No, we're just blockading the Iranian ports. Whoever wants to get in or out of the Iranian ports. Other than that, people who need to get Saudi oil or whatever out of the Strait of Hormuz into the Indian Ocean, okay, you're good to go. We're not blockading anything but the Iranian ports. Now, here's the thing. Iran's oil refineries on Karg Island are getting full because we're not letting them export their oil anymore. And in a few days, they're not going to have any place to put the oil. So they're going to have to shut everything down. And that equipment is not designed to be dormant. It kind of ruins everything. Oh, well. Too bad for them. Not my problem. Trump, Iran, cut 5, please.
They're getting no business, and as you know, they're not doing well economically, financially. They're not doing any business because of the blockade. And they want to make a deal. We have been speaking to them, but they don't even know who's leading the country. They're in turmoil. They're in turmoil. So we thought we'd give them a little chance to get some of their turmoil resolved. But, and I hope the fake news, people like you, I hope the fake news are going to be able to write about it accurately, because when you say, oh, they're fighting very well, they're not fighting well. They've been obliterated, Jeff, obliterated.
Yes, Jeff. Take a note, Jeff. They have been obliterated, you knucklehead. See, Trump shows actually more restraint than I would. Anyway, Trump, Iran, cut 6, please.
159 ships are in their Navy. You know how many ships are at the bottom of the sea, Jeff? 159. So, and if you read the New York Times, the failing New York Times, subscriptions are way down, as you know. That's because people don't believe this stuff anymore. If you watch CNN, you'd think that they're doing well in the war. They're not doing well. They're getting absolutely decimated. Now, with all of that being said, we'll see what happens. We have no pressure. It's only guys like you with a question like that about what's your time. We've been doing it for 5.5 weeks.
All right. Now, as bad as Jeff is, I'm trying to figure out, I was watching the video of the press conference, and I think the White House camera was fixed on the Resolute desk and the president. They didn't swing around and show you who was asking a question. So I'm not quite sure who Jeff is. But a real stupid question coming up for Trump right after the break. The Doc Washer Show continues. Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer. Sorry, I hope that didn't come out on the radio. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501 401 1011. Sometimes I get all choked up. So, we got clips from President Trump's press conference in the Oval Office today. And if you're listening before the bottom of the hour news, there's a guy named Jeff who asked a question about timetable, and the president was just smacking Jeff around, man. Just smacking him around. Metaphorically speaking. So then a young lady asked a question. I wonder if she regretted it. Trump, Iran, cut 7, please.
You use a nuclear weapon against Iran. You posted on
No.
Truth Social a few weeks ago.
We don't need it.
That's
Why do I need it? Why would a stupid question like that be asked? Why would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it? No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
Well, there's an old saying. I guess he showed her. Well, I mean, really, why would you ask me a stupid question like that? We have totally eviscerated them. They got nothing left. We control them. He already went through. All 159 ships are at the bottom of the sea. All of them. They have no anti-aircraft left. We took out all their leaders. And you're asking me if I'd use a nuke? I mean, it's kind of like, yo, what color is the sky in the world you're living in, baby? You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand. How could you ask a question that el stupido, as our Espanol friends would say? Unfreaking believable. Now, we do have kind of a update on some of the Southern Poverty Law Center stuff that was breaking yesterday. Somebody got a screenshot from the Southern Poverty Law Center's publication a while back. The title of the article was, "Designating Antifa as domestic terrorist organization is dangerous, threatens civil liberties." Oh, really? Gee, I wonder why they would have said something like that. So the great Megan Basham, author of the great book, Shepherds on Sale, talking about how liberal money is compromising some big names in evangelical Christianity. She said, the Southern Poverty Law Center says focus on the family is a dangerous hate group, but Antifa is doing important work that shouldn't be critiqued? Really? And that is why left-wing media like Phil Williams, chief investigative reporter over at News Channel 5 in Nashville, are desperate to defend the Southern Poverty Law Center against charges that they paid leaders of the KKK and other white supremacist groups to organize protests and transport people to those protests. Phil made a mistake. Phil tried to respond to her. Oops. As the old song said, oops, there it is. So Phil Williams, the big lib investigative reporter at News Channel 5 in Nashville, said, nowhere in the indictment does it say that the Southern Poverty Law Center paid people, quote, to organize protests and transport people to those protests, unquote. You are continuing to spread absolute fabrications. And then the great Sean Davis, CEO and co-founder of the Federalist. Well, I guess, can you use the word beheaded metaphorically? He just ripped his skull off his shoulders. He says, Sean Davis, responding to this liberal reporter at News Channel 5 in Nashville, Sean Davis says, it says exactly that at the top of page 4 of the indictment, you illiterate buffoon. Oh, he's got the screenshot from the indictment, top of page 4. F-37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia, and attended the event at the direction of the Southern Poverty Law Center. F-37, and we wonder, by the way, if that means Nick Fuentes, because that's when Nick Fuentes first was in the public view, was in Charlottesville. F-37 made racist postings under the supervision of the Southern Poverty Law Center and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. Between 2015 and 2023, the Southern Poverty Law Center secretly paid F-37 more than $270,000. So Phil Williams, the so-called investigative reporter at News Channel 5 in Nashville, is like, it doesn't say that. You're just lying. And then everybody's like, hey, actually, right here is where it does say it. You illiterate buffoon. Man, I like that. That would be a good name for like a band. Not just any kind of band. I'm talking about if you wanted to take on the mantle of Weird Al Yankovic and start doing novelty songs, you call yourself the illiterate buffoons. I think that'd be a lot of fun. No, I can't. No, don't get me started. No, I don't want to talk about Weird Al Yankovic teaming together with Weezer and doing a cover of Toto's Africa song and everybody trying to figure out, well, where's Weird Al in the video? Because he's just normal and singing lead on Africa and he doesn't look like Weird Al. I didn't want to talk about that, and now you led me down the primrose path. No, I had to explain to my wife. She's like, well, I thought you said Weird Al was in this video. Yeah, that's him singing. Well, that doesn't look like Weird Al. I'm like, yeah, because he's not doing a spoof. The spoof is that for once he's playing it straight. Well, I hope I got it out of my system. Yeah, I know. We don't need to remind people I was a DJ on music stations for 20 years. If it's not obvious, well, they know now. Okay, breaking news out of Long Island. Bomb squad detonates a bomb in Long Island after police stumbled on the explosives while investigating a 15-year-old student over a swastika. Nassau County, New York police visited the teen's home after he allegedly drew a swastika at his high school. When police arrived at the home, they allegedly discovered chemicals that had been combined to make explosives. After finding the bombs, the bomb squad shut down the whole street and was forced to destroy the bombs in controlled demolitions. Now, in case you're driving in your vehicle, down 430, down 630, down 40, down 30, even, who knows, down 530, and you're like, well, no, wait a minute. A 15-year-old, how does a 15-year-old figure out how to put together chemicals and everything and make bombs? You know what? That is a very good question that is about to be answered by the next two sentences. Are you ready? Both the 15-year-old son and his father, 48-year-old Francisco Sanles, were arrested. The father's credit card was used to purchase the chemicals. The dad is being held on a $100,000 bond. I don't think that's nearly enough. I think you should put a couple of zeros in the end. How about $10 million bond? How about no bond? Come on, man. I bet he's out already. I'll bet he's out already. I mean, this news dropped a little over 4 hours ago. He's out already, I bet you. The heck? I mean, I'm reminded of the words of the late great philosopher Frank Zappa. More trouble coming every day. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You realize they're going to hit us again, right? See, our folks, Homeland Security, FBI, CIA, whatever, instead of going after patriotic Americans, they're supposed to be stopping all this stuff. Our folks have to get it right 100% of the time. The bad guys only have to get it right once to get through. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. If your business or your church doesn't have a plan for what to do if somebody comes in and starts shooting, I would recommend you call my buddy Ed Monk at Last Resort Firearms Training, because what he will tell you is the exact opposite of what the FBI tells you. And the FBI can get people killed, and my buddy Ed Monk can save lives. Just a thought. Just trying to help. FBI Director Kash Patel was on Hannity last night, said the Southern Poverty Law Center allegedly helped fund and facilitate the 2017 Charlottesville rally that resulted in a young woman's life lost. We talked about this briefly yesterday. And then used shell companies to hide it from the public and from their donors. Yeah. So it's horrendous. Now, some people have been complaining, hey, you got these 11 charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center as an organization. How come we don't have any indictments of actual individuals? If you're listening closely to the announcement that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel gave a couple of days ago, that's coming. Also, John Solomon, justthenews.com, says he believes this is the tip of the iceberg, and there are going to be a lot more indictments of other organizations. Brother Solomon's pretty good. I hope he's right. I hope he's right. We're going to continue to try to squeeze as much breaking news in as we can, and you know we give you stuff that nobody else gives you. U.S. Senator from Wisconsin coming up next, Ron Johnson, talking about the COVID vaccine and what the FDA knew. You don't want to go anywhere else. You can't go anywhere else. You got to hear this. Coming up next on the Doc Washburn Show, Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. You can sound off and talk back. 501 401 1011. The next clip is just heartbreaking. I will never forget United States Senator Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin. It was December of 2020, and I was about to fill in for Mark Levin on his nationally syndicated radio talk show. And the day before that, Senator Ron Johnson had a doctor on, Dr. Pierre Corey. And this is before there was a big rollout of the COVID vaccine. Dr. Pierre Corey was talking about something I never heard of before, ivermectin, and talking about how effective it was against COVID. And so by the grace of God, because there were certainly things I wasn't allowed to talk about on the other radio station here in Little Rock, but I didn't have any constraints when I went on the national show on almost 400 radio stations. Does that make sense? No? Okay, I didn't think so. Anyway, so I played that clip from Senator Ron Johnson and Dr. Pierre Corey talking about ivermectin. Anyway, all these years later, Senator Ron Johnson is still out there. Sometimes I'm sure he feels like a voice crying in the wilderness. He was on a show called Bianca on Newsmax, and it went something like this.
Because of Secretary Kenny's dedication to radical transparency, we got about 11 million pages of documents that we weren't getting from HHS under the Biden administration. And we have now uncovered the fact that FDA officials knew in March of 2021 that their analytical system for the VAERS system was completely inadequate, that it would mask significant safety signals. They had a different system that would, produce this information unmasked. They presented that to top FDA officials, and they covered it up. There were 49 cases of extreme masking, resulting in 25 safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, Bell's palsy, pulmonary infarction. I mean, very serious side effects. And again, I said I didn't need a sophisticated system. I saw deaths per year go from a couple hundred to over 20,000 the year the vaccine came out in 2021, and yet the FDA officials hid behind their analytics that they knew would hide these safety signals.
Yeah. So the truth is what it is, man. Myocarditis, pericarditis, all that kind of stuff going through the roof on young, healthy people who got the COVID vaccine, right? And so you want to look at the Arkansas Department of Health, and they still recommend the COVID vaccine for kids starting at 6 months, for babies starting at 6 months. I guess they just don't care. I guess they just don't care. Because it seems like if they did, they wouldn't still prescribe the COVID vaccines for pregnant mothers and for babies starting at 6 months. So why? I know I've said it before, but maybe you didn't hear me say it before. Why is it okay for the pregnant mom to get the COVID vaccine, so the baby gets a COVID vaccine in utero, but once the baby's born, don't give him or her the COVID vaccine until he or she is 6 months old? Why is it okay to get the vaccine in utero, but it's not okay from day one until you're 6 months old? They don't have an answer. And is the Arkansas Department of Health receiving any money from Pfizer, Moderna, anybody? Because we know that, or for that matter, from the feds. We know that there are a lot of people who died in hospital 2020, 2021, didn't have COVID, but if you check the box for COVID, then the hospital got money for COVID deaths. We know that 97% of people they put on the ventilators died. We know that remdesivir, which was a favorite go-to, shut people's organs down, killed them. We know. Will there ever be accountability? Well, when each of us has to go stand before God, we got to stand accountable for whatever we done. But I know what you're saying. Will there ever be accountability on this earth? I don't know. I'd be surprised because, unfortunately, the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, is a lobbyist for Pfizer. So that's not good. That's not good. No, look, I got to call balls and strikes. I think the president's doing a tremendous job in Iran. That's fantastic. I wish he hadn't announced last year that he was getting his latest COVID vaccine booster. I didn't find that to be helpful, but, I mean, when I think he's doing a great job, I'll tell you. When I disagree with something, well, we sometimes talk about that too. It's just, it is what it is. Update on Mall of Louisiana shooting in Baton Rouge, 1 dead and 9 injured from the gun battle today. Unbelievable, between 2 gangs. I'm Doc Washburn. More coming up after the top of the hour news on 101.1, The Answer in Little Rock. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. More breaking news. Donald Trump, just a few moments ago on Truth Social, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, and Ambassador to Lebanon, Michael Issa, met today with high-ranking representatives of Israel and Lebanon in the Oval Office. The meeting went very well. The United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. The ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon will be extended by 3 weeks. I look forward in the near future to hosting the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, and the President of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun. It was a great honor to be a participant at this very historic meeting, President Donald J. Trump. So that's good. That's fantastic. All right, now I've got to share with you an update on the whole situation with the January 6th pipe bomber, because Steve Baker, who was at the Blaze, broke this story. And then a few weeks later, the FBI's like, no, it's this guy over here. And the FBI's whole case is falling apart. But anyway, Steve Baker broke the story that young female Capitol Hill cop was the pipe bomber. He had the gait analysis, GAIT, from the way she walked, from the videos, from the whole thing. 6 months after January 6th, she got a job with CIA. And he broke the story, and a few weeks later, the FBI's like, no, I tell you what, we got this 32-year-old autistic black guy who lives in his mother's basement, who walks his dog once a day, never speaks to anybody. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we interrogated him without a lawyer for hours, and he finally, said what we wanted to say. Okay. Now, the New York Times has just done a story on the woman that Steve Baker, over the Blaze, pinned as the actual pipe bomber. And Brother Steve Baker out there on X today saying, the 5 most interesting aspects of the coordinated timing of the lawsuit and the New York Times story on behalf of Shawnee Kirkhoff, apart from some of the exact scripted language used in both, are that the law firm of Claire Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and the Gray Lady, he's using a little play on words there. The law firm is Claire Locke. He threw in Cash Patel and John Ratcliffe, FBI and CIA directors. And the Gray Lady, of course, is the New York Times. The law firm of Claire Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and the Gray Lady, number one, doubled down on claiming that Kirkhoff has no limp. Call it what you will other than a limp, but we have demonstrated with video evidence a very distinctive gait in which Kirkhoff favors her right leg. This is exactly the same gait exhibited by the gray hooded bomber on January 5th. Interestingly, the FBI claims to have 30,000 video files of the bomber, but has also only ever released a few seconds of blurry, frame rate reduced footage that obscures the gait. One would think that if they were serious about the $500,000 reward, specifically noting that someone from the public might recognize the gait of the bomber, they would have released much clearer video of that gait. By the way, we have that video, and we'll be showing more of it in the coming days. Oh, buddy! I hope he has good security. Number two, they've now settled into the third iteration of their claim about a time-stamped video containing audio of Shawnee Kirkhoff's voice off camera, talking about a sleeping adult greyhound dog lying on a couch. Yet no one will address the fact that 3 FBI sources confirmed to CBS News the existence of a video of Shawnee Kirkhoff playing with her puppies. How do 3 FBI sources mistakenly describe an off-camera voice speaking about a sleeping adult dog as playing with her puppies? We, of course, know why they had to scramble to recharacterize that alleged alibi. Number 3. They also are not acknowledging that CIA employees are not allowed to give interviews to the press about anything personal or work related, and that the New York Times piece represents an unprecedented break with this long-standing CIA policy. Buddy, you remember when we talked about that? There's never, ever been an active duty CIA agent giving an interview with any media, mainstream, liberal, conservative, I don't care what it is, ever. The CIA director, maybe. The press secretary will do a little press conference, but a CIA employee has never given an interview to anybody about anything because they're not allowed to, except this time. Number 4, they're not being honest about the seriousness of Shawnee Kirkhoff's failed polygraph exam and how gravely the intelligence community, especially CIA, regards that process. Extensive documentation on federal intelligence community policies and procedures regarding polygraph examinations will follow. In other words, we got it and we'll share it with you. Number 5, they refuse to discuss or even reference the biggest related mystery of all, the 2 adjacent addresses in Falls Church, Virginia. And I know where that is. That's right outside D.C., because I lived there when I was 4.5, 5 years old. My daddy worked for the federal government in D.C. Falls Church is right over the Potomac River. The 2 adjacent addresses in Falls Church, Virginia, where the FBI deployed its most specialized surveillance team on January 12th and 13th, 2021, only to suddenly pull the team after just 2 days. Behind door number 1, the residence of the FBI's January 6th pipe bomber person of interest, number 3, who was being visited by FBI January 6th pipe bomb person of interest number 2 on January 5th and 6th. Behind door number 2, the residence of Shawnee Kirkhoff. For some inexplicable reason, the FBI removed its surveillance team from those addresses 6 days before person of interest number 2 and person of interest number 3 were even interviewed or cleared as suspects. Now, why would they do that? Did it have anything to do with who lived behind door number 2, Shawnee Kirkhoff? Why will the law firm of Claire Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and the Gray Lady not address this critical component of the January 6th pipe bomber story? Why is that? Why do you think? Now, ask yourself this most important question. With 2.4 million individual households in the greater D.C. area, what are the odds that the FBI's person of interest number 2 and person of interest number 3 for the January 5th and 6th pipe bomb situation just happened to live next door to the person with a 94 to 98% gate match to the gray hooded bomber? Why will no one even mention this? Steve Baker says, I provided this information to the New York Times reporter in great detail. 2 FBI whistleblowers who were on that surveillance team have discussed it extensively, including the most recent whistleblower who is still an active FBI agent at great personal risk. He has filed a protected disclosure with Congress highlighting the procedural anomalies surrounding that aborted Falls Church surveillance operation. Do the math. Bonus question for the law firm of Claire Locke, Patel, Ratcliffe, and the Gray Lady. Again, Gray Lady is the nickname for New York Times. Number 6. Since you won't disclose who is paying for Ms. Shawnee Kirkhoff's legal defense, using a firm known for not working on contingency, using a firm that is requiring on a regular basis 7-figure retainers. For those of y'all living down in Dumas, that means at least $1 million. And charging $1,800 per hour. Did Dan Bongino write the check for this lawsuit as he specifically told Representative Thomas Massey he was going to do? All right, now, in the interest of full disclosure, I feel honored to call Dan Bongino a friend. Dan Bongino has been very kind to me and my family. This is the first I'm hearing that he may have told Congressman Massey that he was going to, spring for legal representation for Shawnee Kirkhoff. I don't know anything about that, but I've never known Steve Baker to lie. So look, Brother Bongino, I'm sure is more well off financially than I am, but I don't think he'd have the money to pay for. I don't know, man. Now, I'm just reporting what a reporter who has always gotten it right in the past is saying, Steve Baker, and he's over there on X. Anyway, latest on the January 5th and 6th pipe bomber story as Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. One on 1.1, The Answer, Doc Washburn Show continues. So you can sound off and talk back, 501-401-1011. Big hat tip to Real Clear Politics for getting the word out about what a lot of us saw on Fox last night. Andrew Colvett from Turning Point USA appeared on Jesse Waters' show to discuss the DOJ indicting the Southern Poverty Law Center, group that claims it tracks hate and extremist activity in the nation. Colvett told Fox News host Jesse Waters that the group put Turning Point USA on their so-called hate map, and less than 4 months later, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So here's how it went down. Jesse said this was all a fundraising scam to smear Trump and make white supremacy seem like the biggest threat. The stuff the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying informants to do, including commit crimes, raise money, organize hate rallies, is stuff an FBI informant would never be allowed to do because it's illegal and would jeopardize the case. If this is all true, the Southern Poverty Law Center isn't just guilty of hypocrisy. They're responsible for years of damage to the social fabric of this country, and someone should be held accountable. And then he introduces Andrew Colvett, Turning Point USA spokesperson, executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show. And he said it's very funny that the Biden team hooked up with this group, Southern Poverty Law Center, ran a campaign for president in 2020 on Charlottesville, Virginia violence, and then deplatformed everybody on Southern Poverty Law Center's list. Something that needs to be investigated. So Andrew Colvett, producer of the Charlie Kirk Talk Show, said, yeah, and thanks for having me, Jesse. You know, this is something that's deeply personal to me. And it's, by the way, it's deeply personal to pro-life groups as well, that the Biden DOJ was working with pro-abortion groups to weaponize the FACE Act. Again, FACE stands for Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances. Andrew Colvett said, it's the same playbook all over again, but with the Southern Poverty Law Center in this instance. And, you know, they cornered the market on monetizing hate. But guess what? There is a supply and demand issue when it comes to hate. So they had to gin up more hate. They had to manufacture more hate. And when they run out of actual racist and KKK and Aryan Nation groups, guess what? They turn to Turning Point USA. And Jesse, I hope your audience realizes this and really internalizes this. They put Turning Point USA on the hate map at the Southern Poverty Law Center, the quote-unquote hate map, in May of 2025. Less than 4 months later, Charlie would be killed by an assassin who said, and I quote, some hate can't be negotiated out, unquote. They put a hit on Charlie. They put us on a target list. And I'll never forget, Jesse, that when this happened, I remember talking with Charlie, and he said, you know, in typical Charlie fashion, he wasn't worried about himself. He's worried about our students. This wasn't just about Charlie. Although this obviously tragically impacted all of us and Charlie directly, but he was worried about our students all over across the country. And honestly, this is blood money. You mentioned that their donations skyrocketed, almost tripled in 1 year after the Charlottesville violence, which they helped fund. This is blood money. And if MGM and JP Morgan and Tim Cook at Apple and George Clooney and his wife have any self-respect, they would demand their money back. Yeah, that's true, but I don't hold out a whole lot of hope for that. Just so you know. Now, I noticed something very interesting, because the idea is that Southern Poverty Law Center was not getting involved with actual conservatives. They were trying to take liberals and pay them to pose as conservatives. And so one of these, I follow a whole bunch of people on X. This one lady, Allie J. Kiss, says, just doing some noticing, Southern Poverty Law Center dedicates profile pages in their extremist files to a lot of conservatives, including Charlie Kirk, but they do not have dedicated profile pages to people like Candace Owens or Megyn Kelly. I wonder why. Yeah, I wonder why too. I wonder if they were on the payroll. Now, y'all remember that Patriot Front group that used to show up at all these demonstrations? And they would always mask their faces and always wear khakis. And we all thought they were probably FBI agents. Turns out they were paid by Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them were moonlighting FBI agents, but they're getting paid by Southern Poverty Law Center. So now we finally know. We finally know. New York Post had a headline, Hoodwink, Anti-Hate Group, SPLC, gave $3 million to racists they were claiming to fight. And the tweet says 8 hate group leaders, including KKK, Imperial Wizard, and neo-Nazi, got millions from SPLC as part of a so-called informant scheme, according to DOJ. And my old buddy, Hans Monkey, Mahnckke, says kudos to the New York Post for being the only major media outlet to get this right. The Southern Poverty Law Center were paying the leaders. By definition, leaders cannot be informants. They run the operation. It's like paying the leader of the Auschwitz concentration camp to inform on who's carrying out the gassings instead of paying him to stop the gassings. It's perhaps the most grotesque, cynical, and pernicious racket ever devised. Of course, plenty of groups extract money from taxpayers and well-meaning donors off problems they inflate, but this is far worse because it breeds real hatred and manufactures racial division to keep the grift alive. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that the Southern Poverty Law Center is good buddies with the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, the front group for Hamas? You're not shocked, are you? I wonder, we tried to figure out which intelligence agency Ray Epps was working for, the guy that was telling people we got to get into the Capitol the night before January 6th and then on the day of January 6th, 2021. And then he walks away laughing because he got so many people hoodwinked into going into the Capitol. Maybe he was just working for Southern Poverty Law Center. I don't know, man. Maybe he wasn't working for an intel agency. Just SPLC. I don't know. More coming up. Doc Washer Show continues. Little Rock's premier talk radio station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501 401 1011. Well, looky here, would you looky here? Old Tucker Carlson. You ever heard, is written somewhere in a book from a couple thousand years ago, as you sow, so shall you reap. Sound familiar? Josh Boswell, chief investigative reporter for the Daily Mail, a newspaper that started in the UK, but they got an American version. It's been going for years now. He's got this little thread on Twitter. Says Tucker Carlson has a secret sister, and she's suing him over the family inheritance. I spoke to both of them for this story. One denied everything, the other brought receipts. Oh, my. And he's got this picture here from the Daily Mail with a picture of a teenage Tucker Carlson and a teenage young lady. Tucker wearing a tuxedo, young lady wearing the evening gown. And the title is Best Served Cold, an M+ exclusive. That's the Daily Mail. They want you to pay for the extras, you know. But I've got enough to go on here with like the 6 tweets. I don't have to, go on the Daily Mail and pay. Best Served Cold, M+ exclusive. Tucker Carlson's secret heiress sister reveals feud over family fortune and releases trove of photos. Really? Dr. Roberta Hunt, a Georgia professor, says she grew up with Tucker in California in the 70s and 80s after her mother adopted Tucker and married his father. And here you go, family photo at the wedding. Family photos shared with Daily Mail, including this picture from 1982, show Hunt in the white dress posing alongside her mother, her stepdad, and adoptive brothers, Tucker and Buckley, at her debutante ball. Okay, so that's not the wedding. That's the debutante ball. Okay. She described a fractious childhood with Tucker and his brother Buckley, where she said she was made to feel like an afterthought. Things got so bad that in 2023, when her mother lay dying, she claimed that Tucker's dad and brother refused to tell her at which hospital. Well, she must figure it out because there's a picture of her with her mother on her deathbed there. Wow. Tucker doesn't mention her at all, not in the 1,000+ hours of interviews for his 2023 biography. By the way, I interviewed his biographer in 2023. It's still on my YouTube channel. He doesn't mention her at all, not in the 1,000+ hours of interviews for his 2023 biography, not among his father's survivors in the 2025 obituary that Tucker wrote, not in a 2-hour+ podcast chat with his brother about their childhood. Josh Boswell, reporter for the Daily Mail, says, Tucker told me, quote, I don't know who this person is really, unquote. Said he hadn't seen her since the 1980s and said she was, quote, bonkers, unquote. But Dr. Roberta Hunt shared photos of them together with their kids as recently as 2010. Now, I'm no great whiz on math or calendars or anything, but I'm just trying to kind of do the math in my head live on the radio. Producer Young Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 2010 would have been a lot more recent than the 1980s. Okay, I got a confirmation on that. That's all I need. No, seriously, that's all I need. Yes, more recent photos show Dr. Bonnie Hunt with her children and her mother dining with Tucker and his family at an Easter brunch in Washington, D.C. around 2008. Okay. And then there's her lawsuit. You can read Roberta's shocking legal claims and Tucker's fiery response. at Daily Mail US. Oh my goodness. That's really something right there. But again, I I just can't quite. Well, especially when you're live on the air. I'm not going to go ahead and let me tap in my credit card information here so I can, unlock all this stuff. I hope it doesn't come as a great shock to you that Tucker might be playing fast and loose with the truth. I'm sorry. I should have warned you if you're, in a vehicle. I didn't want to shock you, but might be playing fast and loose with the truth. Well, he said recently that Muslims love Jesus. Of course, he ignores the fact that the Quran has a totally different Jesus than the Bible. He also said it is evil to mock someone's religion, ignoring the fact that in the Old Testament, Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal. It's a great story. Great story. Yeah, Elijah, he challenged them. He said, we're going to see if Elijah is real or if God is real. And so the deal was, he said, I'll give you guys, hours to get Baal to send lightning down and set this this wood offering on fire. And they were freaking out and begging Baal to do something for hours. And Elijah was taunting them. He's like, well, maybe he had to take a nap. Maybe he's relieving himself. Maybe he's busy. And so after they finally give up, he doused the whole wood offering with water that had a little moat around it. And there's so much water, the moat filled up with water. And then he called on the Lord God of heaven, who sent lightning down and burned up the offering. And if I recall correctly, I think Elijah actually killed the prophets of Baal. So you got Tucker saying, oh, no, that's evil. Oh, no, you wouldn't want to mock anybody's religion. Oh, that's evil. Now, you know what's evil, Tucker? What's evil is what they do to innocent people. Whether on October 7th, 2023, in which they slaughtered over 1,200 innocent people, and they weren't all Israelis, or what they did when they killed almost 3,000 people on September 11, 2001, or what the guy did at the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando a few years ago, or the people who shot 13 of their coworkers who had done a baby shower for them a few months earlier in San Bernardino, California. I could go all day. Or when the jihadists went into the big concert venue in Paris, the Bataclan, with machine guns and started just spraying people with bullets who were watching the Eagles of Death Metal rock concert. That's just evil. And I'll mock them anytime I want to, as long as God gives me breath in these lungs. Because the prophet Elijah, I think, is a pretty good role model. That's what I'm going to go with. Okay, DOJ takes down massive Chinese financial fraud ring operating out of Southeast Asia. And that is coming up. More breaking news. Nobody else gives this to you. And that's why you're here. And I appreciate you. More coming up straight ahead. The Doc Washer Show continues. Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues. Send off and talk back, 501-401-1011. Big thumbs up. Big props to my buddy Sundance over at theconservativetreehouse.com. DOJ takes down massive Chinese financial fraud ring operating out of Southeast Asia. And he says, when Janine Pirro says compound, she isn't kidding. The DOJ took down a massive financial fraud operation in Southeast Asia that was targeting Americans. Here's a quote from the press release. The Department of Justice, through U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro, I'm sorry, that's Janine Ferris Pirro to you. They got her whole name. I didn't know she had a middle name. And Assistant Attorney General A. Tyson Duva of the Criminal Division, together with its partners, today announced a series of coordinated actions by the Scam Center Strike Force against Southeast Asian criminal organizations operating scam centers that have defrauded Americans of billions of dollars. The Scam Center Strike Force's actions include criminal charges against 2 Chinese nationals who managed a cryptocurrency investment fraud compound in Burma and attempted to open another compound in Cambodia, the seizure of a Telegram messaging app channel used to recruit human trafficking victims to a scam compound in Cambodia in order to work a law enforcement impersonation scam, and the seizure of 503 fake investment websites, among other actions. The scam workers specifically targeted U.S. persons. In the fraud scheme, victims received cold calls from individuals posing as bank representatives, including impersonators of J.P. Morgan or other U.S. bank customer service agents, warning them that their bank accounts had been used to purchase firearms from an actual U.S. gun store website. Victims were then transferred to individuals posing as NYPD detectives or other supposed law enforcement, and later sent to the, quote, New York Supreme Court, unquote, or other purported prosecutorial officials. Through sustained pressure conducted over WhatsApp and Microsoft Teams, victims were induced to disclose their bank account information and ultimately transfer their savings to the scammers. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is, that's messed up. No. No. The first comment, I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but the comment is so funny. The first comment on this article over at theconservativetreehouse.com is a young lady who calls herself Aggie Girl and says, has India outsourced their call centers? Oh, good grief. Hello, my name is Rajiv Patel, but you can call me Skip. Oh, that's so funny. Look, I don't have a problem talking to a customer service person with a foreign accent, as long as the accent isn't so thick that I have to keep on asking the person to repeat himself. That's all. No. Listen to me. Years ago, I had to call Hewlett-Packard customer service. And the guy's in Mumbai or Delhi or somewhere, Hyderabad somewhere. And his Indian accent was just so thick. You know what the problem with an accent like that is? They're pronouncing the vowels and the consonants of the words correctly, but they are putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable of every word. And they're speaking at a pretty good clip, so you just can't follow them. They may as well be speaking a foreign language, and they don't have any idea why there's a problem. I kept on begging the guy, hey, man, no offense, but could you please put me on with someone who speaks English as a first language, because I just can't understand you. And he just ignored my request. So when the long, grueling experience was over and it was time for me to give my rating for the nature of the customer service, homie got all ones on a scale of 1 to 5. And you know what happens? I don't care if you're doing customer service like, you buy some food somewhere and they got like a code on the receipt and you go to the website and they want to know, hey, did you enjoy your food? Was everybody fine? And, if you got any complaint whatsoever, they're like, oh, golly, sorry about that. Would you please kind of give us some details and let us know why? Same thing with Hewlett Packard as getting fast food. They want to know what the problem was. And so you tell them, well, the problem was I couldn't understand your boy. And I kept on begging him to give me somebody I could understand. He kept on ignoring me. I mean, other than that, I don't know, man, because, that kind of iced my deal with HP. Anyway, be that as it may. Okay. Bill Malugin, Fox News, has an update. Has breaking news. And this from just a little bit ago. Breaking. DOJ announces it has arrested a U.S. Special Forces soldier who took part in the raid that captured Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro after the soldier allegedly pocketed $400,000 by betting more than $30,000 on Maduro's removal on Polymarket. And they got the guy's name, Gannon Ken Van Dyke. Okay, now I just got a question because I don't know. Young Tommy, have you heard of Polymarket? P-O-L-Y market is one word. And people bet on stuff. They bet on all kinds of stuff. I guess the reason it would be illegal because if you're a U.S. Special Forces guy, is the theory that by betting on something like that, you might be tipping somebody off? I don't know, because, I mean, I kind of like the fact they took Maduro, and this guy was one of the guys that took Maduro. All right, well, okay, all right. We got a quote here. U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton said this: prediction markets are not a haven for using misappropriated confidential or classified information for personal gain. Okay, all right. The defendant allegedly violated the trust placed in him by the United States government by using classified information about a sensitive military operation to place bets on the timing and outcome of that very operation, all to turn a profit. That is clear insider trading. Okay, all right, I got you. I'm just asking. That is clear insider trading, and it's illegal under federal law. Okay. Those entrusted to safeguard our nation's secrets have a duty to protect them and our armed service members, and not to use that information for personal financial gain. Our office will continue to hold accountable those who misuse confidential or classified information in a way that undermines and exploits our national security. So it's like insider trading. And this is worse than back in the day, Pete Rose betting on baseball, even though he was betting on his own team to win. Yeah, this is probably more serious than that. Yeah. So what's going to be interesting is, he'll have an attorney, and it'll be really interesting to see what the defense is. Are they going to try to get a plea deal? Are they going to settle? Are they going to say, yep, guilty as charged? Or are they going to say, well, now, wait a minute, because there's this, that, or the other thing? I don't know, man. Kash Patel said today's announcement makes clear no one is above the law. Well, now, if that's true, then I hope Shawnee Kirkhoff and whoever told her to plant those fake bombs on January 5th and 6th, allegedly, gets what's coming to him. That's all. The great Dave Ellswick scheduled to join you at 7:06 in the morning. I'm Doc Washburn. I'd be delighted to talk to you at 4:06 tomorrow afternoon, God willing, right here, Little Rock's premier talk radio station, 101.1, The Answer.